Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is November 4th, and right now we are looking at the Doppler radar Camano Island. You can see the rain shadow showing up nicely here across the Puget Sound, central Puget Sound. This should be eroded away a bit from the southwest as we go through the day today. This is probably going to bounce back and forth. But why this is happening is like what we talked about the last few days, the strong westerly winds moving over the Olympic Mountains. This wind compresses and warms as it reaches the leeward side here and eats away at the precipitation. Nice demonstration there of the central Puget Sound rain shadow. Taking a look here, here's our atmospheric river stretching all the way back across the Pacific towards the subtropical Pacific. Look at all the cold air behind this spilling out into the Gulf of Alaska. That's headed our way as well here over the next few days. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. Now, taking a look at things, we have pretty active. We got wind advisories, high wind warnings, storm warnings. We got flooding concerns. We've got stuff going on in eastern Washington. We're going to look at here in a moment. They waited till this morning to put that wind advisory. They probably should have put it out yesterday when Portland put out theirs. And they didn't put out that winter weather advisory for some of the west slopes of the Cascades last night. And there was quite a few accidents out there across I-90, and the pass was closed for a while as well. Now, taking a look here, this is for eastern Washington. They've upgraded these wind speeds all the way to 70 miles per hour for Spokane, Ritzville, out towards Pullman. Power outages possible. The timing of this is probably after about 5 p.m. today. You can see the high wind warning is in effect. We got winter storm warnings for when this atmospheric river drops down south a bit more today. And then we get the cold air starting to move into the region. The higher terrain is going to start to build up the snowpack here. So lots going on here, folks. And you can see a little bit closer here. Again, 5 p.m. Looks like when the big winds are going to start, but it should be gusty through the day today, especially afternoon. Now, taking a look here, excessive rainfall outlook. We've got slight for some of the region here. Flooding potential is out there, especially for the burn scar areas in the west slopes of the Cascades. Taking a look at the atmospheric river here, here's the vapor transport. You can see this extend all the way back across the Pacific Ocean here. It is now aimed at Washington as we speak. This will sag south and weaken as we go through the day and today and tomorrow. Taking a look here, this is the HER3CAM max wind gust. You can see it's settled on about mid-40s, maybe even a little bit higher towards Olympia or Shelton out here. Some of the coastal areas up towards 50 as well as the coastal range of Oregon. But look at this westerly surge move down the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. And Whidbey Island is really going to get hammered today. I don't know how far this wind gust will get towards Edmonds and Mukilteo there, but the HER and the European are saying 60 miles per hour are possible right against the shoreline there. I don't know how far inland lists will go. The wind usually cuts off just a mile or two as it gets off the water here. But again, this is a strong pressure gradient with this low pressure system moving just north of the border. It's really going to power these winds down the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. And as we go on in a little bit later, you can see the big winds coming for eastern Washington, Spokane, Ritzville, down towards the Blue Mountains here, higher terrain of Oregon. Look at some of these gusts up over the Cascades of Oregon and Washington. Just wild. If you're out in the backcountry, you are going to feel it today and tonight. Now, taking a look at the European actually here, showing that similar surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, similar wind speeds to the Puget Sound. These mid-40s are going to be problematic for some of the area here today as we go through the afternoon. Probably going to get some power outages across the region here, and you can see the big winds for eastern Washington as well. Now, talk about snow a little bit here. You can see all the nice warm air. Look at these dew points up into the low 50s here with this atmospheric river bringing in nice warm air. Now, as we speed ahead a bit, look at this frontal system. You can clearly see it drop down across the region as we go to Saturday. That's going to change all the mountainous areas, and all the pass levels are going to start to be getting snow by Saturday morning here. And then here goes our low pressure system off the coastline here. And as it pivots south a bit more, it's going to try to drag some dry, cooler air out over areas up north towards Bellingham, Vancouver, and maybe even some of the San Juans here. As it sags south, you can see that drier air moving out. And that's going to help cool the atmosphere down and maybe favor this area for a little bit of measurable snowfall here as we go through later this week and on in through Monday, mainly on Monday. Now, taking a look here, this is snow depth. This is what the European thinks is going to fall. As you see this here, if you get away from the Puget Sound a little bit, you can see these totals bounce up. And you can see Vancouver, look at that, 2 inches. But of course, the more you go inland, the better favored you're going to be for some snowfall here. So this is a very fine line. We're still early in the season. The surface temperature is going to be fairly warm. The Puget Sound is still fairly warm up through the Strait of Georgia. as well. So it's going to be hard to get snow down to the sea level, but you might see some flakes out of this system here coming up in this early season modified Arctic air moving into the area. And this is why you just don't want to pull 10-to-1 snow ratio weather maps and look at them, because look at this, they're talking about 3 or 4 inches here for places up towards the Washington border. That's probably just not going to happen, and you can see it's kind of showing accumulating snowfall down across the Puget Sound and whatnot, but this is not to be taken seriously. You want to look at the model and what kind of snow depth it's saying, especially in marginal situations like this where you have temperatures that are probably not going to be below freezing by much across much of the area. Now, taking a look here, this is the European 100-meter wind speed. You can see those southwest winds moving across the area today. Powerful westerly surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Now, as we go on into this weekend, you can see this low pressure pivoting down the coastline here as we go through Sunday. You saw the southeasterly winds gusting again early Sunday morning here. Now, as we go down a little bit further into Monday, you can see the Fraser River outflow start here Monday morning here and come across the San Juan Islands here and up into the slopes of the Olympic Mountains. Maybe we'll get some straight snowfall here as it moves up the slope and drop some precipitation there. That could occur for some portions of eastern Vancouver Island as well, but you can kind of see the offshore flow occurring at this point. It's going to get pretty chilly, and then it's going to dry out as this system drops down south, and maybe we'll get some kind of convergent zone activity as it slides down into the Puget Sound as well. But again, it's going to be hard to get snowfall down to sea level here, maybe some of the higher hills, but you may see some flakes from this system here, and we'll continue to monitor this as we get towards the high resolution models as we get closer to the event. Now, looking at this, the European versus the GFS total precipitation inches. Last night's run, again, the GFS much more stout with this central Puget Sound rain shot. As you can see, the big gradient as you go out of downtown Seattle towards SeaTac here, the total start picking up by the time you get down towards Tacoma and Olympia. Look at this, 3.6 inches for Olympia, and some areas in North Seattle with hardly any here on the GFS. Not quite the contrast here on the European, but you can still see, you get the gist here of just how much rainfall is coming across the area in the next 24 hours. Big rain shadowing going on in eastern Washington, BC, and Oregon as is per usual. And then you can see our Arctic system kind of slide down here, and it adds some additional rainfall across the valley areas and a lot of snow piling up across the mountains at this point. Now, taking a look here, this is 700 millibar temperatures. I want to show you guys this. Look at this cold air. This is just going to move in. This is just going to overtake the region here. You'll notice the timing of this. This is Saturday morning. The passes are going to get snowy and freeze up again here by the time you're going into tomorrow night, actually tonight into tomorrow morning. By tomorrow morning, it's going to get crazy again up in the passes. So you have today to travel. You're not going to have much problems. All the pass areas are going to be above freezing today. Should be bare and wet. But then after you go through Saturday morning, it's really going to cool down again, and we're going to bring some snow and start to build up the snowpack across the Cascades. As you can see at 10,000 feet, this cold air just overtaking the Pacific Northwest all the way down into California. Now looking here, this is 850 millibars, 5,000 feet. You can see that cold air arriving here late tonight into tomorrow morning, and you see it try to sag south over British Columbia here. And you can see some of this trying to come off the continent here across Haida Gwaii, north of Vancouver Island, but it's still an early season Arctic air mass. It's not that deep as you would see in later November or even December and January, especially. This Arctic air mass under this scenario would be much deeper, and we would be much colder. But this is not a bad early season, a little cold snap coming up here, and we may still see some snowflakes down to the surface, but no big snowstorm is expected. Now, taking a look here, this is 18,000 feet, just kind of showing you the temperatures aloft here. You can see this cold air just arrive here. Now we're getting into Saturday morning, and you can see this modified Arctic low here interacting with this polar lobe move across the region here. Very cold temperatures aloft. We may even get some coastal thunderstorms or maybe even a water spout here as we go through this weekend. Some big waves out there too. Good wave watching coming up here this weekend for the Washington, Oregon coast, Vancouver Island as well. Now, take a look at this. This is sea level pressure. As we go through the day today, look at this low develop into British Columbia, and watch this thing move into eastern British Columbia and Alberta. 976 millibar low. That's what's going to bring these brutal winds to eastern Washington and across the higher terrain. And you can just picture this gradient that would set up from this low pressure to this high off the coast of California. Strong gradient cast across the region today, and that's what's going to bring our gusty winds across the area. And this is what's going to power that surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca about this time tonight here. The wind is going to flow across the gradient here, right perfectly aligned down the Strait of Juan de Fuca as this thing dives through Alberta and brings high winds all the way through Montana. Now, this is kind of taking a look at the overall gusts that are coming up here. Look at this gust as this moves across the region. This goes through Saturday morning, late morning here, Saturday afternoon. But you can see the gusts it's going to bring across the region down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, eastern Washington. Now, taking a look at Seattle, Tacoma, we may get some days below freezing here, depending on if we clear up or not overnight. But you can see some of these highs. You're going to feel it during these daytime highs. Probably not getting up above 45 for some of these days early next week. So you're going to feel that. Spokane, look at this. Some of these overnight lows might get into the teens, especially out in the more rural areas of eastern Washington, especially if it clears up a bit. Going to get pretty chilly there east of the Cascades. This is for Boise, too. You can see as we go through mid-week here, that cold air is going to settle over the region out there. Some of the highs just barely above freezing for Boise. Kamloops, interior of BC up there. You can see it's much colder. And this Arctic air, even though it's not that deep, is still bringing pretty chilly temperatures out there for eastern British Columbia. Pretty typical of these scenarios. Now, this is looking here at this low pressure system moving by, powerful gradient comes across the area. And here comes our Arctic high. Some of the models earlier in these runs were showing a better pressure gradient coming out over BC here. That just means this Arctic air, we're still kind of early in the year and it's just not quite that deep. So hopefully we can get a setup like this as we go through December or January and really bring some deep Arctic air across the region here. Now taking a look here, 850 millibar temperatures. Again, just want to kind of show you the timing as this moves over the area Saturday morning. And you can see it start to sag down across the area and come off the coast of British Columbia here. But it just doesn't get that really super cold air back aloft that we would need to bring snow, measurable snowfall down to the surface, widespread across the area. And then you can see as we slide through later next week, this air mass starts to modify as we go. But you can see the result of this polar low moving across the area and pretty cold air aloft still hanging around, trying to modify as it moves across the Pacific Ocean here. And we'll just have to watch to see what kind of system spawns up in our extended forecast here and comes back into the Pacific Northwest. As you can see, well off into the future, maybe a polar low will move down into the eastern U.S. as well. Now taking a look here, Stevens Pass, you can clearly see we're going to be raising the temperatures today and then just totally crash them down overnight tonight. By tomorrow, you're going to have a hard time crossing the passes for a lot of areas. You got to be prepared, chains, traction tires, all that good stuff. But it's going to definitely start to bring the snow back again by late tonight into Saturday morning. This time frame keeps getting pushed ahead, actually. You can see this is about 11 o'clock Friday night, so very early Saturday morning here. It's going to crash. Whistler, same thing. That you're going to go below freezing tonight, and you're going to stay there for a while. This is Mount Hood. You can see in the early Saturday a.m. as well. Big crash in the temperatures and the passes. The backcountry out there across Oregon is going to go below freezing and stay there for a while as well. Now, looking at Seattle, Tacoma, the models are pretty much settled on low to mid 40 gusts around the area today. Could get some nuisance power outages across the Seattle area. This is the European, which has been extremely consistent with these wind speeds. This is looking at Whidbey Island here. You can see the southeasterly winds happening today across the region out there, southeasterly. And then you see the westerly surge coming down through Whidbey Island here. This is the naval station, probably going to be higher for some local areas out there, up towards 60 miles per hour. This is Spokane. Look at some of these winds. The mean is all the way up into the upper 50s here. Impressive wind speeds coming through the area across the eastern Washington. So probably some power outages are going to occur out there with that. This is Payne Field. You can see this would be that westerly surge coming through here tonight. How much of this will get into Everett? Will it just be right along the coastline? Will it get inland a few miles? Tough to say right now. This is Pendleton, Oregon. You can see the mean up towards 50 miles per hour as well. Kind of a prolonged event as this low pressure moves across north of the Washington, Idaho, and Montana border. This is Bend. You can see the winds probably into the mid 40s today. Astoria, pretty typical out there. Nothing like they're not used to, just low 40 mile per hour gusts. And Great Falls National Weather Service up there in northwest Montana. Look at some of these gusts going through the area today. Potential for some high winds there. Missoula, nice windstorm too. The mean is up towards 50 miles per hour. And this is the Natchez, southeast of Mount Rainier. If you really want to feel the effects of this storm, get out there in the Cascades of Oregon or Washington, or out just kind of west of Yakima there in the higher terrain, and you will truly feel this storm rolling through. This is the European here, last night's run. This is 24-hour running precipitation totals here, just kind of giving you the timing of when this is going to end from north to south. So this is Sunday, Actually Saturday night. Here we're going into Sunday morning. You can see it's going to move pretty quickly through Oregon. Then the atmospheric river should be into California there by Sunday morning here, but then we're going to have more showers and cooler air moving into the area here, and eventually that modified Arctic low is going to come off the coastline Monday here and try to bring a little bit of lowland snow across the areas, but it should be bringing some good mountain snows as well, and some of the higher terrain will be getting good snowfall. Now taking a look at California here really quick. Total precipitation in inches. The European, this is going out for 90 hours here. So I'm not going out as long as I did yesterday, but you can see this precipitation much needed coming across the Sierra Nevada, making its way all the way down into Southern California here by Monday afternoon. So very beneficial down there, even getting some rain out into extremely dry Nevada. Now this is snow depth in inches. Let's run through this. So here we go. This is about 4 a.m. this morning here, and you can kind of see we built up a little bit of snow last night across the region, but look at this atmospheric river really eat away the lower level snowpack until about tonight. Then you can see that snowpack start to recover here as we go through Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. Now you can see this clearly building up here, and maybe even a little bit of snow accumulation up towards Vancouver, Bellingham. We'll see how that goes once the high resolution models get into range. But you can see here we eat away at that with the atmospheric river, bring it back here as we go on into Sunday and Monday. This was looking at snow total here over the next 90 hours, just about 4 days here. And you can see some of these impressive totals down through the Sierra Nevada. So this is a really nice storm for building an early season snowpack across the area. So thumbs up for that there. Now this is looking at Snoqualmie Pass. This was 8:30 this morning, so about, 40 minutes ago my time. Here you can see it's going to be bare and wet through much of the day today. If you want to travel, maybe do it today, do it before tomorrow morning, because by tomorrow morning it's going to crash below freezing. It's going to be, snowing through some of these passes. And this is Stevens Pass, the same thing too. It's going to be above freezing for the area today. So do your traveling today if you can. You don't want to be doing it tomorrow or Sunday. It's going to be below freezing. It's going to freeze up and you're going to get snow falling across the area again. Now look at the 6 to 10 day below average temperatures for much of the Pacific Northwest here. As you can see, this would be November 9th through the 13th. Now look at this, 6 to 10 day, even talking about a little bit of a break here as this system, this cold polar lobe moves out of our area here. We're going to get maybe not quite as active as normal here across the region. So maybe we'll even be getting some fog or something. But again, take this with a grain of salt. Still 6 to 10 days out right here. And some of the models have been showing systems continuing to move through the area. So we'll continue to watch that. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. I mean, enjoy this rain as it's coming. It's going to be pretty warm across the area. It kind of feel a little muggy out there up into the 50s. Nice flow off the Pacific Ocean here all the way back to the tropics coming across the region today, kind of eating away at the snowpack a bit, but then we are going to crash down big time tonight with that cold air moving across the region. The high winds today are going to be going on, strong winds down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And yeah, I may go up there and bring my wind instruments up there and check out just how strong it's going to be across Whidbey Island today and tonight. So anyway, yeah, leave some comments below, click like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and we will do this again. I may do a live stream tonight, or maybe we'll talk about this again tomorrow morning as per usual. And